Hello, I'm Frank Stanisci of Candid Frank Library. You'll find us airing our views here on the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now on Candid Frank Live, joining me is Aaron William Freeland. Hey, Aaron, how you doing?
Doing all right, Frank. How are you?
Okay. Thank you to
Yeah.
everybody who's tuning in. Yeah. Yeah. Everything's just peachy keen. Nothing that computer failures can ruin.
Well, I'm glad to see that you're relatively well recovered from the past week.
Oh, I'm not recovered.
Oh, okay.
This is just a mere. An AI image of me that I created to con people into thinking that it's me. It's not actually me. It's an AI image of me. If you notice, my hands are backwards. My head doesn't spin
We're
around.
doing well.
Yeah, all right. So Aaron's alluding to, hinting at, suggesting that I got back from Vancouver. I've never been to Vancouver, and shamefully, as a Canadian, having not been in every big city in the country, I think that is kind of the last one that I haven't been in. Vancouver, Edmonton, Calgary, Winnipeg, I haven't been in. Toronto, Hamilton, Windsor, Ontario doesn't count. Quebec, Montreal, Quebec City, been there. And I'll just say Nova Scotia, I've been there on the East Coast. Halifax, which we'll just have to say that covers the rest of New Brunswick and Newfoundland and the rest. The point is, I went there for the Grey Cup. The Grey Cup, if you haven't heard, it's the championship of the Canadian Football League. And just to make sure that, for those of you that love the Canadian Football League, I'll get the logo up there because it's important, I think. Yeah, it was a fun experience. I enjoyed it thoroughly. You didn't ask the question. I just answered it on my own. You have any questions?
No, I don't think so. I think you had some great seats for the rally at Maple Leaf Square. That looked like it was a heck of a lot of fun. And your footage on
Champagne
Facebook
on
was
me.
pretty neat.
Got champagne on me. And
Oh darn.
I had a shirt on and I went to take the shirt off and all the confetti came out. The floor looked like the floor looked like the floor of BC Place. There's just all this confetti everywhere. And wine, champagne, and it was some beer, champagne, and my phone's a little sticky now, and my glasses I cleaned, so this is new stuff. I don't know. Maybe it's from yesterday. I don't know. But anyway, it was all in celebration of the Argos winning the 111 Grey Cup, the 2024 Grey Cup. They're 19th, the most of any organization. And they're second in 3 years, twice in a row against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, who can't beat a team that isn't named Hamilton.
Yeah, they seem to have a lot of issue with that. There was a lot of discussion about whether or not Winnipeg was actually a dynasty. Um, Personal take on the issue, aside from everything else, if you've lost more games than you've won, then I don't think it can technically be considered a dynasty. You can be considered just very good.
Yeah, and I'll take the devil's advocate view and defend my Winnipeg Blue Bomber fans. And I will say that they made it to 5 Grey Cups in a row, which it sounds like a dynasty. It looks like a dynasty, but that prevailing point that you make has a lot of bearing. That in the sense of a dynasty doesn't refer to having a chance to win a championship. A dynasty refers to winning championships. To be a dynasty, you have to be at the top of the world in a way that no other team has or has been, over a long period, really.
Yeah.
By definition, I mean. Now, there hasn't been a team in a long time that's been to the Grey Cup 5 times in a row. But somehow, unfortunately, dynasty refers to me in my mind to winning. And as you said, it boils down to your point. I guess I went a long roundabout way in just trying to pat my Winnipeg Blue Bomber fans on the back a little bit and say, yeah, you have a right to be very proud of your team. But it doesn't fit into this, like the Edmonton Eskimos were if the Edmonton Eskimos were a dynasty, and they played in 5 Grey Cups, and Aaron, you know how many Grey Cups they won out of the 5, right?
I think I do.
All 5.
Yeah.
2 for 5 in light of that pales by comparison. But still, if not a dynasty, they are one of the greatest teams to play in the past few generations, but it won't. You can't go back to that. You can't go back to the 80s and the Edmonton Eskimos and not say, all right, since then maybe they're a dynasty. Since then maybe, but then and before then, no, not going to work. It's the Edmonton Eskimos. And I put it this way. The Toronto Argonauts went into the Grey Cup twice in 3 years. They won. The Bombers,
and that I think is
5
the
times
difference,
and
right?
won it twice. Huh?
That's the difference. The Argonauts have been in there 3 times and they've won 2. So
No,
that's
twice. They're 2 for 2.
Well, Toronto, Montreal, Toronto.
Oh. Well, yeah. No, I'm
looking at obviously the most recent records, but Toronto, Montreal, Toronto, we've won 2 of the past 3.
Right.
And that's one of those things where it's like, yeah.
The question is 2 out of 3 better than 2 out of 5?
Percentage-wise, yes.
Right? But the fact that they were in the Grey Cup says something. Again, I would suggest, and I guess I would say, you know what? I think we figured it out. I think Winnipeg is just a little bit better than Toronto because 2 losses, right, is all they've done better than Toronto. 3 losses is all they've done better than Toronto. They've been there 3 times and lost. So how much better is 3 visits to are the Buffalo Bills a dynasty because they went to 5 Super Bowls in a row?
Well, the prevailing theory is no.
They didn't win any.
You had to
dynasty requires victories.
Yeah.
It requires victories. Okay, well, so the Argos reign supreme. They win their 111th Grey Cup. Tell me what you think of it.
Well, it was fairly even all the way through. There were some periods of concern where Toronto did fall behind, but unfortunately, with Zach Collaros dealing with a rather gruesome-looking finger injury, and I'm not 100% sure how he got that. It looks like his hand made contact with a defender's palm and somehow got all bent out of shape. The replays obviously weren't clear. But after that, and after he put on the bandage and he put on a glove,
and the stitch, and I think there was at least 1 stitch.
3 of 4 interceptions happened after that injury. So he managed to finish the night at 500 for 202 yards, but that's just a brutal drop off right there. And the Argonauts just managed to salt it away with 24 points in the 4th quarter. That's a tough loss because they were there the entire way.
Winnipeg had 24 total points. The Argos had 24 in the final quarter. Now, the first time that Zach Collaros wore a glove on his throwing hand, do you know when that was?
I don't recall, honestly.
Well, it's easy. It was the first throw he threw in the Grey Cup.
Oh, jeez.
That's what the first time he threw a ball with a glove on. And then with the glove on, he also had a stitch, and it was on the finger that controls the spin of the ball. So the story here for me is if we talk about the season that Winnipeg had and the season that Toronto had, the season story is Toronto was able and willing to trot out another quarterback twice when they lost their number 1. Right? They put out 2 guys to replace him. In the 9 game, they had 1 guy. In the Grey Cup, they had another. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers didn't have faith in their backup quarterback, and didn't use them. and maybe they should have.
I mean, I'm just thinking to myself, if you don't trust him that much, why did you sign him? Do you know what I mean? Like
Well, what have
that
you
is
done? What have you done to make him? Because the comparables are there. The Argos used 3 quarterbacks this year. Admittedly, Winnipeg's number 2 got hurt, but was not the number 3 whom Arbuckle was at the beginning of the year? Was that not who he was? And he became MVP. That's the story, I think, of the game against Winnipeg. They didn't have someone that they had faith in to put in spite of a quarterback wearing a glove for the first time, has a stitch in his finger, and can't get the right spin on the ball. And the first ball he throws is for 40 yards. And math says that if your passes are, let's say, a fraction off, math says the further you throw it. Am I making a point? Just a little one. I just want to make a little point.
I'm looking at their list of QBs. I know Streveler was injured.
He was.
But you don't trust Wilson, and you don't trust
Wilson's the guy. Wilson's the guy that's going to be their future quarterback.
And then there's Jake Mulligala, who's
I didn't put him in there.
I was just puzzled by the fact that they didn't put anybody but Collaros in at that point just to try to salvage something.
Yeah, well, I don't understand why you just can't admit that like this is the thing that, and I hate to eat up the whole show on the Grey Cup, but if there's a time we can do it, it's once a year when the championship's decided. I think that's the best thing you can say about Ryan Dinwiddie. Ryan Dinwiddie had Arbuckle before, and he allowed him to be traded to go bye-bye. And he went bye-bye so that the Argos could get Kelly with that Edmonton pick. Well, not pick, protected list player was Kelly that they wanted for Arbuckle. They got Arbuckle, sent him, got Kelly, and they sent Arbuckle. And I know the coach, and I know from all the talking this week with Arbuckle, that he admits he was not in a good place. He was not, in other words, he was not the kind of asset a team needed. So he was convinced that, he was ready to retire because he just didn't think he had it. But Arbuckle is brought back by Dinwiddie, and Dinwiddie comes out saying before the Grey Cup, I have all the faith in the world in him, because they invested in him the education to be a starting quarterback. They developed a system that catered not to the quarterbacks, but was a system that the quarterbacks worked in. And that's why I think may have not been seamless per se, but that's why when you went, all 3 quarterbacks that the Argos had essentially helped them win football games or didn't lose football games, which I think by definition is what the Bombers did when they sent out Zach Collaros after his finger got cut and bent.
I think you've hit the nail right on the head there. It's really at the end of the day, it's finding the system that works best for your quarterbacks to put them in the best position possible to succeed.
So would you say this was a storybook ending for Nick Arbuckle? Arbuckle.
After his long and winding road to actually get back onto a roster, after him looking for coaching jobs during the off season when he hadn't been signed by the start of silly season back in February, it's one of those. You know what? You got to really feel good for the guy. That is definitely the way you want it to go down. So I'm very, very happy for him.
Well, the repeated times I talked about Deshaun Brissett, we never talked about him becoming the Grey Cup's most valuable Canadian. Speak to me, Aaron.
I don't think anybody really expected that. Let's be honest. I mean, he did have 3 passes for 45 yards and a major that helped open the game up. But in the meantime, I think one of the other more important parts is the work that he was doing on the sideline to keep his teammates motivated and engaged and ready to go. He was a dynamo on the sidelines there, not only there but also on the field. They were a group that worked well. He was one of 9 different receivers to catch passes from Nick Arbuckle who was the eventual MVP. But at the same time, he was, as far as I'm concerned, the most outstanding player there.
Yeah, they were all good. The Argos were all good. Head coach Rick Campbell relieved of duties in Lions front office shakeup. I don't think this is a moment when he's sad, because he's going to turn up in Edmonton, and there's a reason why it's fitting that he ends up in Edmonton. We knew this in Grey Cup week that he was going to Edmonton. This was the shoe. The first, when they say you wait for the other shoe to drop, well, the other shoe dropped first. this is so predictable. It's ridiculous. Everybody in Vancouver knew that Campbell was leaving and he's going to Edmonton. That seems to be what the main thought is there in Edmonton.
No, I don't think it was really a surprise that he was going to get picked up somewhere. I just think it might have been a bit of a surprise for a few people as to how quickly it happened. But the last bits of confetti have barely floated down from the ceiling of BC Place, and he's already signing. So
I think the whole management team. I don't know. Is Rick Campbell the only guy going? You didn't make note of the assistant GM. Is he still there?
Well, they have Neil and Ryan in their new roles with the prep for 2025 already underway. So that's something. But honestly, excuse me. They promoted Ryan Rigmaiden and Neil McAvoy to general manager and vice president of football ops. So that, I think, was also in the books as well. But yeah, I
I'm
haven't.
surprised they're not waiting for the season to or the off season to go a little bit to have some conversations to see if anybody else is available that they might want. But I guess they're gonna look for people from within the organization. I mean, promoting from within is not a bad thing.
No, I mean, you get individuals who are already familiar with the systems. You get people who have already had a few opportunities to see what needs to happen and what needs to be put into place for them to succeed. Certainly, I think it's like you mentioned, it's not a bad thing at all. The only direction for BC to go at this point is up.
That's the hope. And then, of course, Ed Hervey, former Elks general manager, is now finding himself back in Elkland in Edmonton. That was another one where that's another one we knew was going to happen. We in the press, we were talking about this move the whole time we were there, and actually we were more surprised that it wasn't mentioned while we were there. But I guess they didn't want to. They wanted to have a little more fanfare, and after the Grey Cup's over, good general manager, good pick. This is the guy that ran the team when they won the Grey Cup in, I believe, 15.
Yeah, he was he was there when they won the cup in 2015. He was one of the individuals that actually helped shape that team. Chris Morris said that he was a man with a tremendous amount of integrity, who believed in consistency and continuity. He brought a wealth of experience working as a GM in this league, but also understands the importance of innovating. I think the problem is at the end of this, after the past couple of years, Edmonton has been seen as a bit of a joke around the league, and also ran and never was at certain points. Harvey's come up through the organization. He played as a receiver from '99 to 2006, won 2 Grey Cups there, worked in the front office from 2007 to 2016, starting out as a scout before moving up to head scout in 2009. You know, Edmonton made it to 3 consecutive Western Finals between 2014 and 16 before they won the 103rd Grey Cup in 2015. So, as part of the shakeup, Hervey was part of the GM's line. The BC Lions GM from 2017 to 2020. He was on the Ticats staff in December of 2021.
Yep.
But there you go.
Good job.
Yeah.
All right, Aaron. Let's keep moving here and talk about the PWHL going to Edmonton.
So I don't know if you heard about this. This has actually been a lot of fun to track. They're doing something called a takeover tour. So what that means is the PWHL are going to different arenas that don't currently have PWHL teams to play what they call takeover games. So the Toronto Scepters and the Ottawa Charge are going to be playing on Sunday, February 16th, with the game beginning at 4 at Rogers in Edmonton. They're also doing other stops in Seattle, Vancouver, Quebec City, St. Louis, Detroit, Raleigh, Denver, and Buffalo. So it's a great opportunity for those
Roadshow.
individuals who haven't had a chance to see those games to see them.
It's a roadshow.
Yeah,
Great idea.
barnstorming.
All right, so let's jump right to the Leafs, Aaron, with the few
Sure.
minutes that we have left, and let's talk about why the Maple Leafs placed Max Domi on injured reserve and called up Nikita Grebenkin ahead of the game against the Golden Knights.
Well, Domi's gone 13 games without scoring a point. That is a bit of a concern, especially because he's more primarily known as a playmaker than anything else. He has been playing banged up, but the issue that we have is with Austin Matthews and Max Pacioretty already out, not to mention David Kampf and Calle Yarncroke. Domi's been playing banged up. Berube decided to place him on IR retroactive to November 16th, which means he would be eligible for Toronto's game on Sunday against Utah, but he really does need the time off. So Fraser Minton has been called up. Nikita Grebenkin has been called up. Connor Dewar is already up there. Alex Steeves is already up there. They've made some interesting lineup choices, not going to lie. It certainly at practice this morning, you had Pontus Holmberg as a second line center. And then you had Fraser Minton centering Nita Grebenkin and Nick Robertson. And on the fourth line, you have Steve Lorentz with Connor Dewar and Alex Steeves. So that is something that definitely makes the lineup a little more interesting. It's feeling a little bit more like a Marlies show me game than anything else.
Absolutely. Pacioretty is unavailable. He also is having a visit on the LT.
Yeah. They've actually had him. They actually moved him to the LTIR due to a lower body injury. Under LTIR rules, he's going to be unavailable at this point to return until he misses 10 games and 24 since the last time they played. That would be the December 7th game against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Would be Pacioretty's earliest possible return to the lineup. They had mentioned that it might be something with a hamstring. He did grab the back of his left leg after they played the Habs on November 9th. He and Mike Matheson had a rather unfortunate encounter, but he hasn't been skating. So that is another issue that we're currently looking at here. He has only been signed to an $873,770 contract, so it's a little over league minimum. That's variable in the minors, provided he can get through waivers.
Yeah, so it's a little much, but we'll see what happens. Let's talk about the lineups for the Leafs tonight against the Vegas Knights.
Yeah, they haven't had a loss yet. Still just the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah.
But you've got Bobby McMahon on the left wing, along with John Tavares and Mitch Marner, which is great because John Tavares and Bobby McMahon will both crash the net. Bobby's got a heck of a shot. Mitchie's the feeder. You've got Pontus Holmberg centering William Nylander and Matthew Nyes. There had been some discussion about actually trying Mitch at center, but I had thought that the experiment with William Nylander was going to continue, and they might consider putting him there. A third line again, like I mentioned, Nick Robertson is going to be centered by Fraser Minton and Nikita Grebenkin. Young guys, all of them ready to go. That's going to be interesting. Connor Dewar, Alex Steeves, and Steve Lorentz is a set of three that is not going to be fun to play against at all. Getting to the back end, we've got Oliver Ekman-Larsson, OEL, and Morgan Riley, which is, good first two. Jake McCabe and Chris Tanev, and Simone Benoit with Connor Timmins. So that is certainly going to make life interesting on the back end. Benoit's a big dude. Everybody knows this. Timmins has been working on his shot, so that's something else that's to consider from the third pair.
Well, he's the one with that I think has an offensive upside. And at least I've felt that way from the first time I saw him playing an exhibition a couple of years ago.
He's certainly got a lot of untapped potential. It's just a question of him making sure that he stays healthy. He has had injury issues in the past couple of years, so it's something that the Leafs really need to be aware of, making sure that he doesn't overtrain, or that he doesn't this is where I hate to say it. This is where load management comes in because you want to make sure that he doesn't overstress himself.
Well, it also has to do with with load management on how you train.
Hmm.
It's not just missing games. It's they do so much when they're off the ice compared to the way it was back in the day. There's a lot that goes on, a lot of physical stress and physical strength building and all that kind of stuff off the ice. So, and you can overdo it there. And he's one of those candidates. The biggest thing I think that he needs to do is to be more consistent. That's been an issue as far as I'm concerned for him.
Hmm. No, most definitely, and it's part of that is that he doesn't get as many reps as he potentially could because he's not an everyday roster player. But at the end of the day,
But they're
um,
playing him like he's an everyday player.
and
You know what
that
I
can be
mean?
dangerous as well.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
he's, he's doing a good enough job to be in the lineup. He's doing a good enough job to put the Leafs in a position where they felt safe trading Liljegren. You know, all these arrows point to the fact that they're hoping on this guy, and he's got size, which we know Treliving respects. He likes his defensemen to have size. This team defense has gotten humongously taller and bigger under Treliving than it ever was under Dubas.
And well, and again, that speaks to their managerial styles as well, because Dubas was a fan of the little pocket rockets, whereas Treliving prefers his walking trees. It's just a different approach to the way the game is played, and I can't say I've served them badly so far this year. Um, you know, it's a question of keeping the trees healthy, which is, I guess, always a problem.
Well, when Treliving came, the word he used that everybody repeated was snot.
Yeah, a rather unfortunate choice of words, but that's
Kicking the snot out of the opposition. That's they're bigger players, therefore they carry bigger lumber,
that,
and
and
lumber can
that
be a
was
tractor.
what one of the pieces of advice I got from a well-respected defenseman by the name of Bobby Orr. Said always get the biggest, heaviest piece of lumber you can.
There
This
you
is the
go.
human equivalent of the biggest, heaviest piece of lumber.
On that note, good day to you, sir. Good job.
Great to be here. Hopefully, we'll see you Friday. Yeah,
Oh
we
yeah.
on?
Okay.
Perfect.
Yes, you will. There's no football game.
Perfect.
Well, there is a football game, but it's
It's not
south. We
ours.
don't really care about the NFL that much. Thank you. Oh, by the way, one thing I will say though is the Chiefs, my team, lost to the Buffalo Bills. Thank you, Aaron. For Aaron William Freeland, I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching Candid Frank Live, Aaron, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For Candid Frank Live, entertainment, and other news sports programming we offer, please check out SpanglishWorld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, live it. Thanks for watching. Ciao for now.